Hello, and in my last video, I covered where the word Hinduism came from. What does the word Hindu mean? And how now the new word, the new kid on the block is Sanatan Dharma. And then I took you through some excerpts from the great honorable Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar to show you how the word Sanatan Dharma for Hinduism also doesn't make sense. And in that video, I also promised you that I would be taking you through Hindu scriptures to show on what basis Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar could have arrived at the conclusion that Hindu Dharma, as they now call it as Sanatan Dharma, Sanatan meaning everlasting, makes absolutely no sense. Before we get into it, have you subscribed to our channel? If not, then this is the right time to do it because I am covering very detailed issues on Hinduism, giving you a good view on what is Hinduism all about. And there's a lot to learn. Well, in my last video, after my last video, I got a lot of comments that why don't you debate other Hindus? Why are you having a one-sided conversation? Well, we did, and we did invite a lot of Hindus, very well-known, outspoken Hindus such as Rajiv Malhotra, the so-called ex-Christian Kamakshi, also earlier known as Esther Dhanraj. We also called the ones who were running the channel of Agniveer for a debate. We even called Sai Deepak, J. Sai Deepak, but they all absconded. Well, we did manage to get hold of the ISKCON group, and then we had two debates on that, and you can see that on our channel in case you missed it too. So, just to give you a quick recap, so let's discuss Sanatan Dharma. What about it? And this is a quick background on the Honorable Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. He was the father of the Indian Constitution, an extremely intelligent, extremely gifted guy. And over here, just to summarize on what we did the last time, and these are a few, the claims that he had made in the book Riddles in Hinduism. And here we see that, and he says that the Hindu claims that the religion is Sanatana, but what is eternal in it? Not even the gods, Indra, Agni, Varuna, once prominent, are now minor. New gods like Vishnu and Shiva have taken their place. Even Ganesha and Hanuman are later inventions. So in today's video, we'll be getting into that. What is Sanatana in the true sense? Because you can go through this course on your own on the screen, but you have to understand that as if you've not seen that video, my last video, I put the link on the screen. You can see that, and it's also there in the description. But Sanatana actually means everlasting or eternal, and it is used as an adjective at a few places, like three odd times in the Hindu scriptures. But it is on one of the adjectives, one of the attributes of what they believe is God. It is not like that is the name of the religion per se. So they have converted an adjective into a noun. You have to understand that. It's not like how in the Bible, Acts chapter 10, verse 26, where we see that the word Christian is there in the Bible. It is actually given to the followers of Christ. It was done as more of a disparaging word, but then it stuck and it has grown. So these are a few more comments that he has done. Hinduism cannot be Sanatana, a religion that changes its gods, its moral codes, and its social orders through time is not eternal. It's historical, it's temporal, and it's often unjust. So you can read the quotes on the screen. So let us get into the fight for divinity in Hinduism, in Sanatan Dharma. Let us see how it's evolved. Let us get into a few scriptures, and I can bet you will be surprised. So stay with me. Look at this. The curious case of the disappearing gods. The Rig Veda was incidentally the oldest of all Hindu scriptures. It was written somewhere around 1500 BC, around the same time that Moses was writing the Old Testament. The Pentateuch, that is. So here we see that in the first chapter, in the first verse in itself, there is a praise for Agni, which is the god of fire. So there in that the elements are worshipped. So there it is written, I glorify Agni, the high priest of the sacrifice, the divine, the ministrant who presents the oblation to the gods and is the possessor of great wealth. So in the Rig Veda, the Agni is one of the most prominent ones. And then in the Rig Veda, again in the second chapter, it speaks about Indra. Indra is supposed to be the king of the gods. And here it says in Rig Veda chapter 2, 12 and 1, it says, he who is born as who he who as soon as born is the first of the deities who has done honor to the gods by his exploits. He at whose might heaven and earth are alarmed by the greatness of his strength. He man is Indra. So the greatness, the great god, the god of gods is Indra. And so there are many verses like that, and that is something that we get to see. And this is something of a statistics from within the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas. So you have to understand that the Vedas were the first written scriptures of Hinduism. The Rig Veda, the Yajurveda, Atharveda, and Samveda, the four Vedas. And we see something very startling in that the references to Indra was like 23% of all the names. So 289 times, Agni is 218 times, Soma is 123 times. And then we see down, as you come to the list, you will see the gods which are now more in reference. Vishnu is referred only 6 times. Rudra, some say is Shiva, but there is no evidence to that. Let's assume it was Shiva. Let me give you the benefit of doubt. Rudra is mentioned 5 times. Saraswati is mentioned 3 times. So statistically, these are insignificant deities. And this is something while growing up in the Hindu background, I used to wonder quite a bit as to what happened to all these gods. How from where these new gods come in, and that is precisely what Dr. Ambedkar was referring to. That is how can you change your gods like this? So new arrivals in the divine stage, and here we see something new. Like in the Vedas, in the early Vedic period, there was the Indra, the Soma, the Agni, the Ashwins, the Varuna, the Maruts, the Mitras. All these gods are there who are in high regard. Many hymns dedicated to them. But for all the Vishnus and the Shiva and the Saraswati, there is nothing. There is barely anything. But then there are the new arrivals on the stage, more than that. And we see something like a Ganesha, the elephant god, and we have this massive Ganesh festival that you must have heard in India that happens, and it's got zero reference in the Vedas. And then there is Hanuman, who's supposed to be like more than divine in many cases. Like many people look at him as the ultimate teacher, the ultimate warrior, the ultimate guru, and everything is ultimate. And then of course Kartikeya, who's supposed to be the brother of Ganesha, and they literally have no references in the Vedas. So these are the new arrivals on the divine stage. I'm not making this up, guys. For people, if you are a Westerner, you would really be very, very surprised to hear this because you are used to the Christian concept or even in some cases the Islamic concept of God. But here the systems are different. So let's go through a few more verses now. In Vishnu Purana, book number 1, chapter number 2, we look at Vishnu being presented as a sovereign creator god. Now, understand, the Puranas were written much, much later than the Vedas. The Vedas were the earliest books written, the holiest of books that is there. And over here, we see Vishnu is presented as a sovereign creator god who literally had like 6 references in the Vedas, is now presented as the supreme god. But that's not the end of it. Just stay with me. This is like way beyond, mind boggling. And then we see that in Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Purana, which is one of the most referred and the most revered Puranas. In this, we see that Krishna is presented. You must have heard those, Hare Krishna people. Yeah. So in that, the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is presented as the sovereign God over all, over everything. But even though the Vishnu Purana presents Vishnu as the supreme god, we look at the Rig Veda, where he is not presented as the supreme god. He is presented as a cook to Indra, who is supposed to be the supreme god. And here he says that in Rig Veda, chapter 2, verse 22, it says that at the Trikar Duras, the great and strong, has drink blent with meal. With Vishnu has he qualified he poured out soma juice, all that he put. Soma is like a drink. And then we also see that in Rig Veda, in the 6th mandala shloka, we see that he is even cooking beef for Indra. How's that for a vegetarian diet? And then we read in Rig Veda chapter 8, we hear that Vishnu even brings milk for Indra. So he's literally waiting on Indra, helping out Indra, like more like an assistant from the Rig Veda is something that we say. And then suddenly in the Vishnu Purana, as we saw, he is elevated as a supreme god. And now also, as per Hindu beliefs, Vishnu is supposed to be like there. The Vaishnavas are there; they believe like he is a supreme god. And then we see that in the Rig Veda again, Vishnu is singing songs for Indra. That is Rig Veda chapter 8. We see that he is singing songs for Indra. And then Vishnu is even shown as a friend for Indra. Like if I become the friend to the prime minister or the president, so that would be the difference between Vishnu and Indra, as per the Rig Veda. So here we see in Rig Veda 1:22 and 19 to 6, we see that he is a friend of Indra. And then, but we see in the Rig Veda, the three strides of Vishnu, that's the only biggest thing that is shown about him. The three strides of Indra, where he's taken up the Vamana avatar, and but this was more like a really odd story, if I can say that, where he is deceiving the Dravidian king Mahabali, and he comes in the form of a dwarf, and then he asks for some alms from the king, and the king asks him what he wants. He says, "I want three strides of land." He says, "Take what you want," and then he starts growing, 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 and then in one step he takes over. He covers the heavens. In the second, he covers the earth and the netherworlds, and then there is no place to keep the third feet, and the king says, "Okay, you can place it on me." Look at how good the king was. And that guy is shown as more like a not a good king, more like a demonic king. And he is then thrusted down to earth, to the netherworlds by Vishnu. Many see it as a hegemony done by the Brahmins to show the upper hand of the Brahminical gods on the Dravidian culture, where Mahabali was a Dravidian king, and by the Dravidians, where they say that he has come back to earth to rule. So that is supposed to be a period of great happiness. This was something to show in the face of the Brahmins, that is, even though you try to destroy, our king has come back. But again, that apart, there is the three strides of Vishnu. That's the only great thing that they have shown Vishnu doing in the Vedas. Otherwise, he is cooking for Indra, he is giving drinks to Indra, he is singing songs for Indra, he is getting milk for Indra. All he is doing. So he's more like an assistant. But then, as we go ahead, in the Satpata Brahmana, which again comes after the Vedas, Vishnu's title conveniently changes due to competition. And here we see that happening in Satpata Brahman 14:1:1. We see in 1:5, we see that for Vishnu first attained it, and he became the most excellent of the gods. He became, he was not, he became. And this is, as I'm saying, that is what the Honorable Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was probably, I'm sure that he was referring to all these changes that we see happening in the Hindu scriptures. And then we see again the title has changed, but not so much of the role, because in the Aitreya Brahmanam, Vishnu is again shown as the doorkeeper of the gods. So the role keeps on changing. I think based on who's writing the books and whose favorite god is who, the role keeps on changing. So that's what you see in the Aitreya Brahmanam. But then somebody can always, looking at the biblical way of Jesus Christ, who's the servant, the attitude of the servant that he had shown, the humility that he has shown. Somebody can always take that Christian concept and say that, oh no, you see, Vishnu was being very humble. He's very kind. He's very gentle. So he's just playing along. It's not that he is not the highest God. Well, let's just see how the nature of the gods as it changes. Let us just jump right in. Again, guys, this is going to blow you away. The concept of gods in Hinduism. Again, we see that is in the Rig Veda in 10:129. The Vedic gods are later creation than the world. This is in the oldest of Hindu scriptures. And we see that in verse number 6, where it is written more pronounced, who verily knows, who can here declare it, whence it was born and whence it comes this creation. The gods are later than this world's production. Who knows then whence it first came into being? Here it says the gods are later than this earth's production. So the world came first, the gods came later. So you see, the eternality of God that you see in Christianity is not something that you see in Hinduism, and we'll get into it more and more. And the creation of God is then explained in the Bradranayaka Upanishads, where it says that, where it is written that in the beginning the universe was just water. That produced the true or the real Brahman. So the ultimate reality in Hinduism is called as Brahman. And Brahman produced Prajapati, and Prajapati produced the gods. So you can see all this Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, all were like creation from Prajapati, and Prajapati was born from Brahman. So then somebody can very well argue that, okay, Brahman was the, not Brahmin. See, understand, Brahmin is the caste, and Brahman was the ultimate reality in Hinduism. So I hope you're getting the difference in this. So then we also see in Rig Veda that Hindu gods do not possess immortality. We see that in verse in Rig Veda again 9:108, and it says that the gods have drunk up thee up for immortality. And we see that in the in the Samudra Manthan, where it is, the nectar was there below some mountain, and the gods and the demons are fighting over it, that who will get the nectar and get immortal life. And then the gods were with the help of Shiva, and Shiva drank the poison, and then the gods could get immortal drinking the nectar of life. So the concept of God, brothers and sisters, in Hinduism is different than that we see in the other prominent religions like Christianity and Islam. Again, I'm not getting into the concept of God in Islam. That's a totally different, weird concept, but based on the generic understanding. And so then we see also Hindu gods do not possess immortality. And we see that in the Satpada Brahmana in 10.433, the gods are afraid of this Prajapati, the year, death, and ender, lest he by day and night should reach the end of their life. The gods are afraid that they might die. Can you believe that? And then we see in the last part, as I've highlighted, uh, that lay down 360 enclosing stones, and so and so and so. And the gods laid down accordingly, and thereafter became immortal. Thereafter, doing all these various rituals, the gods became immortal, and they were afraid of Prajapati, else he will die. And then look at this again. There was a generation of gods before the current day of Hindu gods, and that is written over here. These in again the Rig Veda. This again I'm quoting in the earliest scriptures. So this is not like a later development. This is the earliest thought process. So existence in an earlier age of gods from non-existence sprang. Existence in the earlier age of gods from non-existence sprang. So earlier age of gods. So there is something before the current age of the gods. So what was it? Let us just check. So then we see that in the Atharva Veda, which is again, a very authoritative Veda. It is there in Hinduism. So as I said, the four Vedas are there. This is also one of them, Atharva Veda, and this is in the 11th chapter. The 10 gods before the gods were born together in the ancient time. Whoso may know them face to face may now pronounce the mighty word. Then again, going down, we see in the last one, those gods who are of old, the 10 begotten earlier than the gods. What world do they inhabit, since they gave the world unto their sons? So you can see there are hierarchies. The gods are not immortal. They are not the first ones. They are created, and they create other gods. So honestly speaking, guys, as when I was being brought up in a Hindu culture, this really used to bother me. That is, what is this concept? They more like look like more like human beings with some superpowers in some cases, but nothing more than that. They live, they die, they lust, they are greedy, they forget, they are sometimes unjust, and all these things was something that was even noticed by the Honorable Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So then we see there are multiple generations of gods. They are not immortal, and they born, and they were even afraid of dying, and then they attained immortality. Then we even have seen till now that how Vishnu was supposed to be, who's now supposed to be like the supreme god, but earlier he was just a doorkeeper for the god of gods, Indra. So then, how do you explain the existence of other gods within Hinduism? Maybe They are all manifestations, as many Hindus say that also, that they are all manifestations of the supreme reality of Brahman. Maybe that's the case. Is it? Let us just see. We see that in the Shiva Purana, again, it is written much later than the Vedas that we just read. In this, we see that Shiva is deified. He is shown as a supreme god, as all. And there are the Shaivaks are there, and they believe, like there are different, denominations or sects in Hinduism itself. The Shaivaks believe in Shiva being the supreme leader, supreme god, and then there is the Vaishnavs who believe in Vishnu being the supreme god, and then there are many other, we'll be getting into that also in the next video. That is, who is a Hindu, and you'll get this more in detail. So Shiva is a supreme being, and then again we see Shiva as a supreme being. The quotes are there right in front of you in the Shiv Purana chapter 8. And then again we see the quotes happening over here as to how he is in blessing everyone and he has multiple forms and no one else has all these forms. And then we see towards the end of chapter 8, he says, I am the supreme Brahman. My form is both. And he says that I am the ultimate reality. Because the Brahman is supposed to be the ultimate reality, Brahman that is. Shiva says that he is the Brahman, that is the ultimate reality from whom all the other gods came. See here again he says in chapter 8, he says, O Vishnu, Brahma and Vishnu, I am Brahman because of Bhartavya and I'm sorry, I'm not able to pronounce this. O children, I am the Atman due to Samatva and Vyapakava. All others are Anatmans, means they are not the ultimate reality. Individual souls, undoubtedly. So he is giving a speech, a great disclosure on who he is and how others are not up to him, and he's the ultimate reality. But then we see that in Gita, Krishna calls himself as a supreme god. But he goes one step ahead. Stay with me. And he says, oh, here, look at this in chapter 9, verse 23. Whatever a man sacrifices to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. That even if you, offer to Shiva or you offer to Brahma or Indra or whomsoever you're actually offering it to me. That's what he's saying over here. And then in chapter 9, verse 25, he says, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. So all the others are demigods, but he is the ultimate god. That's what Krishna says. Vishnu says he is the ultimate god. Shiva says he is the ultimate god. Veda says Indra is the ultimate god. Are you getting what is happening here? And then, of course, the other books also say that Brahman is the ultimate god, and these were all created by Prajapati under Brahman. Then there are those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me because he is the supreme one. That's how it goes. And look at this. Now in Devi Bhagavatam, there's a Devi Purana again, we see Devi, which is like goddess. Okay. She is now inquiring, how can Bhagwan Vishnu be called independent? Means the ultimate reality. If so, he would not never yielded to enter into multiple wombs because Vishnu takes avatar. So she is saying, how could he be the independent entity, the necessary being? We are all contingent beings. He is the necessary being. Therefore, O God, know this, that this whole universe is under the control of Yoga Maya, the devas, the men, birds, what more, everything from Brahma down to a blade of grass are all under the control of Yoga Maya. Brahma, Vishnu are all bound by the rope of her Maya. So everything, including the God of gods, everyone, Vishnu, she is even naming them. And she says, so that easily by her Maya, means by her illusion. Maya means illusion. From womb to womb, like a spider, because Vishnu takes incarnations. So some say there are 9, some say 10 or 11 incarnations that Vishnu has had, avatars as it is called. So Devi says, because he is taking so many births, he is not the ultimate one. I am the ultimate one, and by my strength, he is going from one womb to the other. All right, from the Brahma down to the blade of grass are all under her control. So here, even the Devi says, Devi means the goddess, says that she is the supreme god. Then what about the Brahman? because many mystics believe that Brahman is the ultimate reality from whom all the realities sprung forth. And then again, the undermining of the Nirguna. Nirguna means attributeless. He doesn't have any attribute. So, the ultimate reality. But then, Gita chapter 5, verse 28, Krishna says that he is above even Brahman. Can you understand this confusion? Rig Veda says Indra, Agni, Varuna, all these Soma, they are all like very big guys. And there are lower hierarchy, there is Vishnu, Shiva, all those come below. Gods like Ganesh, Hanuman, Kartik, all these are coming later on. They're not having zero mention in the Vedas. But then going ahead, Vishnu says he's in later books, not in the Vedas. In the later books, Vishnu says that he is the ultimate reality, ultimate God. Devi says she is the ultimate God. Shiva says he is the ultimate God. Then some book says that Brahman is the ultimate God. And then Krishna says he is above even the Brahman in Gita chapter 5 verse 28. And he says the sage who ever thus remains thus is verily liberated. On knowing me, the Lord of all sacrifices and austerities, the great Lord of all the worlds, the friend of all beings, he goes to peace. And he says that he is above everyone. And he says that Nirguna Brahman, the ultimate reality, was born from the womb of Krishna. That's what the Gita says. But other book says ultimate reality is Nirguna Brahman. Krishna and all came from within that. So we see that in Gita chapter 14, verse 3, and he says, my womb is a great Brahman. In that I place a gem, thus then so Bharata. And then in 14 verse 4 he says, whatever forms are produced, O son of Kunti, in any wombs, whatsoever be the great, Brahman is their womb, I the seed giving father. So he says, from my womb Brahman comes, and from Brahman's womb everybody else comes. Other book says, from Brahman womb come Prajapati, and from Prajapati womb comes all the other gods. So now you are able to understand that when somebody says that their religion is Sanatan, everlasting, the question that needs to be asked, brothers and sisters, is what is everlasting? Is it the gods that is everlasting? The doctrines that is everlasting? The attributes that is everlasting? What is everlasting? You just can't say everlasting. If I say it is everlasting, it begs the question, what is everlasting? And so then again, we see, look at some, even the dharma, because Sanatan Dharma, dharma means law. And in that also there are lot of discrepancies. In my one of the upcoming programs, I'll be even be covering the difference in the doctrines of Gita, which was written like completed around 800 AD, and then the Rig Vedas and all that was written around 1500 BC. So we'll see how even the dharma characters have changed. But then we see here in Rig Veda 164 and 46, the truth is one, sages call it variously. In the Mahabharata, it says even the sages are confused about dharma. And in Apastamba, it says that dharma is what the good do. So then it is a perpetual ambiguity as to what even constitutes as dharma. When it says Sanatan, that is everlasting, dharma means law, even the law is not everlasting or eternal, unchanging. So then becomes a question, then what is the true Sanatan? Now I'm not talking about Hinduism because obviously there is nothing Sanatan in that. So let us look at some attributes of what is truly eternal, what is truly divine. Seeing God through the scripture in the Holy Bible, John chapter 4, verse 24. This is the beauty of the Bible. The attributes of God, the character of God is so unchanging. And you can see that repeating right from Genesis to Revelation. Now, I just put down a few verses over here. It doesn't mean that this is all that there is to it. There are hundreds more verses to cover each and every point that I'm going to list now. So, and in John chapter 4, verse 24, it says, God is spirit and not flesh. Then Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 15, 16, and 19, it says it warns against reducing God to physical form. That is where we have the commandment that says, do not make gods for anything. That is where we have the commandment that says, you cannot be worshipping anything that you made with your hands, anything on this earth. And then we see that in Psalms chapter 147 verse 5, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 25 to 26, that God is all-knowing and incomparable. And then it says about God being pure, invisible, eternal, and perfect. In John chapter 4 verse 24, it also speaks that God is personal. Because understand, it speaks about Nirguna Brahman, that is like attributeless. He is not concerned with anything and everything. But here we see a God is personal. He is self-aware and has will. We see that in Exodus chapter 3 verse 14 and Ephesians chapter 1 verse 9. God is infinite. His presence and power know no boundaries. That we see this in Jeremiah chapter 23 verse 24 and Job chapter 11 verse 7. And a God that is eternal, Sanatan, and unmatched. That we see in the Holy Bible and the Holy Bible alone. And there are a few verses. He is independent. He exists without relying on anything. So he doesn't have a grandfather or father 10 generations before that. Jesus is called as the Son of God, yes, but it's not that he was born at a specific point of time. He is the ever eternal Son of God, Son being his title. And we see that in Job chapter 41 verse 11 and Revelation chapter 4 verse 11 to 17. He is immutable. He does not change other than what we see in Hinduism earlier. That is, the things changed, the characters change, the attributes change, and they keep harping about one above the other. And he does not change. And we see that in Psalm chapter 102 verse 25 to 27, Malachi chapter 3 verse 6, and James chapter 1 verse 17. He is eternal, the true Sanatan. And we see that right from Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, we says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is, all the creation was created by God. He lives outside the bounds of time. When you see that in so many verses that I put down over here, he is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. And this is one of the things that I used to get really worked up in Hinduism. That is, God's getting greedy. God's lusting for each other's wives. God's not knowing. Like, we have the story about Shiva. And Shiva, his wife is Parvati, and when he's gone on some war or something, and his wife gives birth to Ganesha. And one day, that Parvati, that is the wife of Shiva, is taking a bath, and she tells her son Ganesha to stand outside so that nobody comes in. And as she's taking a bath, Shiva is coming back from the war, and he says that he wants to meet Parvati. And Ganesha says, you can't, she's taking a bath. He doesn't know that he's his father, that is Shiva, and Shiva doesn't know that he's his son. And Shiva being like, the angry one, he tries to enter, and Ganesha fends him off, and they get into a war. Can you believe that? Both gods, both not even knowing how they are related to each other. Then in a fit of anger, Shiva beheads his own son, Ganesha, so his head falls off. Then his wife comes out from the bath and she starts screaming, what have you done, this, that, and all. So then Shiva sees an elephant going by. He cuts out the head of the elephant and puts it on the body of his beheaded son. And that's how we have the story of the elephant god. I kid you not, that's the story. I'm not trying to mock. I'm not trying to make fun. That is what it is. If you're asking me why he did not simply attach the head of his son back again, there is no explanation. Your guess is as good as mine. And then, of course, we see in the Bible that all his attributes operate in harmony of each other. They are not at conflict of each other. And then look at the heart of God. This is what really blesses me every single moment of my life. He is love. God's very nature is love. We see that in 1 John chapter 4, verse 8. He is holy. He is truly set apart and pure. He is the epitome of mercy and grace. He is the epitome of justice. And that's why he sent his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross so that your sins and the justice for your sins is done and you get to be with him. Faithfulness and truth, goodness and perfection. He is the epitome of that. And this is the attributes of what you can expect a God to be. How would you know that? Because that is placed in your heart. Who is God? What his attributes would be like is something that you can look inward and you can see that attribute of God. And this, you see that even the names of God, this is such a blessing. We see multiple names of God, and the first one that comes to mind is El Olam, the everlasting God. That's actually a noun of God in Bible itself. So he is, his name, actually one of the names of the Bible, of the God of the Bible, is Sanatan. Now, I'm not saying under any circumstance that the Sanatan Dharma of Hinduism is reflected in Christianity. No, I'm trying to say that over there in Hinduism, they have picked up verses on the adjectives, that is, attributes of what they call as God, and applied it to him. That here in the Bible, that is one of the names which is a noun given to God Himself, which is also His attribute. El Olam, the everlasting God. Elohim, Yehovah, Adonai, El Shaddai, Elyon, El Roi, Yehovah Yireh, Yehovah Rapha, Yehovah Nissi, Yehovah Shalom. That's where we get the word peace, the God of peace. And we see in the Arabic language, Shalom Aleikum, Shalom, peace be with you. It's not a Muslim word. It's a Jewish word from the Hebrew text, which has been taken over by Islam. And but if you still go to Israel or the Middle East, you'll have the Arabic Christians still wishing you Shalom. And there is Yahweh Ra, and Yahweh Sikidinu, Yahweh Shama, El Gibor, Kama, and Emmanuel, God with us. So I end my naming, the name listing of God with the eternal name of Christ Himself, Emmanuel, God with us. And we see that in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, and we see that even in the New Testament, where the angel says to Mary that you shall call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. That is the name given to Jesus Christ Himself. So, in this particular episode, I'll be covering what is Sanatana all about, and is Hinduism truly signify an everlasting, eternal Dharma. In my next video, which you have to see, I'll be covering who is a Hindu. I know that sounds like a stupid question, but think about it. Who is a Hindu? So stay tuned. Do subscribe to the channel. Let's move ahead.